I finally realized I got into a relationship, again, and I was having just a lot of issues with anxiety surrounding a lot of different things. And I won't go into that, but there was just a lot of stuff that was like coming up that I couldn't figure it out. I had this overly submissive attitude. I I was having a really hard time being able to express my emotions and my feelings, and I was not connected. There was nothing about my, you know, I'll explain, but I decided to go to a counselor. And I went to this counselor because I was like, I'm anxious at work. This was 6 years ago because I started going there right when I started this job. So it was like, I'm really anxious all the time. And I am so worried that I'm going to be fired. And and there was nothing going on that I was, needed to be worried about that, right? Work was going great. It was, my relationship had a lot of, you know, red flags, not anything crazy horrible, but it just was not a healthy relationship. And I just started talking to her, talking to her, talking to her. And, we were there for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, this program got brought up, and she just is asking questions, and she's so gentle and sweet, and she's playing the long game. Shout out Denise. I love you forever. Denise took one for the team when she took me as a client. And so we start talking. It's about 2 weeks in, and I notice she's asking me a lot of questions about this. And I'll never forget, she looked over at me and she was like, do you mind if I say something about this church that's not, you know, positive? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, your room. And she was like, I have to say, I think that you were in a cult. And I was like, well, my first thing was like, well, and then she started very gently repeating back things that I had said to her in consecutive order. Well, Callie, um, there was a lot of control about what you wore, what you said, who you dated, that whether or not you could work, what you did. And all of a sudden, the list was so long, and she was being so gentle, but I just started to panic because I was like, if she's right, then I don't know what to do. And so she just kept going, and it was almost like one of those flashbacks in a movie. I just started seeing more stuff like come
Almost like through a
forward.
new lens, right? Like you're looking at
Yes.
it through a lens that isn't your eyes.
Yeah. And I started thinking about like all these, like, we would have snow days, and I would stand out in the snow and pump gas for people for donations to give to the church. I didn't keep the money. They would take us on these trips to Microsoft conferences, and they would make us work for like 12 and 14 hours a day and keep all the money and put us in a hotel. And I kept going through all these different scenarios, and I was like, oh God, that's not normal. That's not normal. That's not normal. And then I started to panic so hard. All of a sudden, it was like I was on my back on her floor, and she was putting sandbags on me. And I mean, that's what it felt like. It just felt like an out of body experience. And she is just, again, took one for the team, taking me as a client. I just have rice all over me. I'm laying in a T-shaped position. The uh, therapy dog is there on my side. Diesel, he always wore a bow tie. He's a real gentleman. He was, locked in on me, and I am just in a full on panic attack in the middle of the floor. And I am sitting there going, what did I do?